Welcome to AFL Uncensored. I'm your host, Tej Johannesson, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Omari Fraser. We are wrapping up week 2 in the AFL, gearing into week 3, which seems crazy. These weeks, they seem forever to kind of get here. We've been doing this podcast, Omari, since I want to say February or early March or something like that, and we were like, "Oh, the season's 3 months away still," and now we're almost halfway through. It just seems, where does the time go?
It's crazy when you think of it like that, because it's halfway through. The build was so high, but I think once the bye weeks start kicking in, that's when I think the length of the season will actually kick in. Because I know Wolfpack, we've had one. You guys are expecting your first one here soon. A few of the teams need their first bye week, so I think once the byes really come in, because I think. Yeah, and there's the July long. I think that's where everyone's going to get the bye. So I don't know. It does go by quick. First 3 games, and your playoff predictions or playoff placement could be decided in literally the first 3 games.
Well, yeah, we kind of. For the Bucks, it's crazy because we have 4 games in a row in June, and then there's 5 weekends in July, and we only have 2 games in July. So it's kind of crazy. We go hard and heavy in June, and then it's in July, we have a bunch of bye weeks for our league bye week and then our own team bye week. So July will be kind of slow, but kind of nice to get a little bit of reprieve too. So how did your game go up this week with the Pack? You guys traveled up decent numbers. It looks like you guys battled. They scored some long rushing TDs. It kind of looked like. What did you kind of think from your team this week? First game, young team. What were your thoughts overall?
I was very impressed with how our guys fought. Young guys, they came, stepped in, and had that. I was telling them on the bus ride home, I was telling them hey guys, you guys, you had your welcome to the AFL moment. You congrats on playing high level football. I know typically in high school it's always football only lasts for a certain time, but it's blessed to be able to say, hey, you guys play football today at a higher level with men, which. They got a taste of it, and of course it was tough to go in and take the loss and everything. But I feel like it will do a lot more good for us, because now it's going to help us. Hey, that's a top tier team we need to get to, right? We don't need to be that tomorrow, but we're going to work our way towards that. And luckily, I'm very fortunate. Whereas the first game, we can build on that, because the way I see it optimistically, I'm saying, hey, I want to see those guys in the finals and have another battle out there. If it's here, it's there, whatever it is. I want to keep that optimistic mindset of we can compete with these guys, and it is going to take work, but I'm happy to see the guys that we have are willing to put that work in. So, for all the Coley guys listening, I'm looking forward to our next bout. So it's always a fun one to, drive up there and hopefully have them come to us. I think that'd be a nice way to have our next round go.
Yeah, I watched the film of that game. It's obviously the film was one thing, being there is another. I thought that you guys, Skylar Pinchuk, I think is his last name. He was there with us last year. He looked great. He's a physical beast out there as a linebacker. He was making some big. He's kind of like that guy that he can make those one-on-one tackles that other people can't really make. And he looked really good. Daryl looked, that's a very good defense out there. First game with a bunch of new receivers. Daryl was on the podcast earlier this year, and he made a statement. He basically said, with Vardo leaving you guys and going to the Irish, and he said, I don't think that Vardo's going to get very many targets. I don't think he's going to put up even close to the amount of yards with the Irish, because they just don't throw. And so far, his predictions are correct. We'll get to that Irish game in a bit here, but that, I'm looking at your offense and I'm like, man, I understand that obviously Airdrie's supposed to be better with the Wolfpack, but Vardo was getting those targets from Daryl and making those plays, and it's just not the same in Airdrie for him. So Daryl so far has been right on that. He just looked like he needs to get some time with his new guys. I thought that Cold Lake kind of had some opportunistic plays. There was the pick 6 by Gabe, former podcast guest Gabe, big talker. I'll give him props. He had a very, very nice game out there. A nice pick 6. He's tough to go at, right? The pick 6 was good. He had another pick. I think he jumped the hook route, a classic Darrell Eason 55-55. Good defense, but I think there's a lot to build on for you guys. I think that you'll be a team that really grows similar to the Bucks as you guys move forward. What, do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, and on that pick too, I saw the ball. I think I was there in pass pro. I mean, it was in pass pro. I saw him get the ball, and I was like, okay, gotta get. I saw Gabe get the pick, and I was like, okay, gotta get on my horse. I gotta get downfield. And I believe he was a good, like, I think 3-4 yards ahead of me, and me and our other running back Nate were trying to chase him down, and he just zoom by. So I knew it was one thing where I'm like, man, he gets this, so much to hear about it. But we had some fun with that, and I think it was funny because after that, I actually ended up playing like a full game on defense, but we're lined up for the convert.
I saw that.
Yeah. But it's funny because I guess being on the podcast, you get some extra attention. But all the Coley guys were like, oh, what about that prediction? And I was just like, man, it's a tough one. I got to eat some humble pie there. But
just wait until I get into what the elite were trying to say about the podcast. Oh man, I got some good stories coming up here on this podcast. You're right, we do get that extra attention. I love it. So I got some great stories about the elite game in there.
Yeah,
just absolute terrible ability to trash talk. I saw you were playing defense. Have you played D before, or did they just kind of throw you in there?
It was more of a thrown in there just because we had some guys go down, and I think I've subbed in like, oh, guy needs a blow, like you go for that. But this was a game where I was like, oh no, we need you to play D, and so started with safety, then with linebacker, and I didn't prepare for it, but I knew it was something like, hey, I can compete there, but definitely something where it exposed parts of my game where I'm like, you know what? I got to go and back to the lab and just look back at things. So if I'm ever thrown in a spot like that again, I got to be more ready, because I think I was caught to, I think, number 10 from Lake had as an RB, I'm like, man, it's a super nice cut. And on the defense, it's always very on the defensive side, because I'm like, damn. I look back at the film like, shit. That's a nice cut. Got to give respect there in their line there.
Yeah.
It's
guys make plays sometimes, right? I tell the kids I coach that, right? They're like, man, I'll have DBs that are upset that a guy made a catch on them. I said, man, you had absolutely perfect coverage there, and sometimes they make plays, right? Sometimes running backs make good cuts and make really good players look silly, but it is a different animal, right? When you're getting out, there's a completely different mindset. I've been playing both ways for a couple of years now in the AFL and sporadically over my career, but full time for the last 2 years, and so I'm a little more used to it. But it's a completely different mindset that you got to flip. And you know what? Speaking of picks and corners, when we're talking about Gabe, I think this might be the year of the corner. Like, if you look around the league, we're getting, we got Jamal from Airdrie's got 3 picks now and pick 6. There was a Grand Prairie pick 6. You got Gabe with a few picks over there. The corners for the elite are really good. The elite have 2 really good corners. One guy's, I asked him where he's from. He said New York. I was like, New York? I wasn't expecting that. The other guy's in Edmonton Husky. They got some great. There's a lot of good corners hanging around the league this year making plays. So shout out to the corner. As a fellow corner myself, I got mad love and respect for every corner. It's a tough position in football. It's tough to be put out there on an island, and your mistakes get exposed. Everyone, you could have a great game where you got like 6 knockdowns and 2 picks, but then you get a touchdown at the end of the game thrown on you, and all anyone remembers is your touchdown. So it's tough being a corner. So respect to all the corners out there really showing up this year. I've really noticed that on film. A lot of really good cornerback play this year.
Yeah. That's one thing I've definitely noticed with just all across the league. So it's going to be entertaining to see where this goes and see what happens where quarterbacks step up and different things. And one shout I want to give is to the Cold Lakes quarterback, because I know this was his second game coming in, and it's definitely different for me being someone where I didn't prepare for him because I was like, I'm just gonna play offense. But just now being on the defensive side and like seeing he's making his reads and trying to remember from the film, and he's definitely picking the game up, and he's very tall. Like that dude should be playing best for the Lakers, but he did some great throws and making reads and everything, and it's awesome. I compliment because it's awesome to see young talent pick up the game and continue the game because that's going to be the future of our league. And, with the Wolfpack, with our young talent, Airdrie, Bucks, Edmonton, all teams all over. So it's exciting to see the youth come into the league, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? I mean, it's what continues to keep the league moving. A lot of the old guard is gone, and we're kind of ushering into kind of a new era of AFL football, and it's looking really good. And that Cold Lake quarterback, I believe he's a local kid too, which is kind of cool. So keep balling out there, buddy. I apologize, I don't have your name in front of me right now, but keep the fight up. The offense, you got some great weapons out there, so. Obviously there are rivals, me and you and Mario on our teams, but we also wish the best for people playing in the league, and especially young quarterbacks. It's tough. I got one here with Brett Billsma and Red Deer. It's a very hard position to play. So keep it up out there, Cold Lake quarterback, and I'm sure he'll continue to get better as the year goes on. Right now, the defenses are really showing up. The running backs are really showing up. Obviously, you guys, the Cold Lake ran the ball pretty well against you guys, and it's kind of been that pattern this year. I hope the passing games start coming up around the league. The Bucks had a good first passing game, not so good into the Edmonton game, which we'll kind of talk about now. So Bucks elite, the Bucks, we've now lost 2 games by a total of 5 points. So that's, by a total of 8 points. So first game by 5, second game by 3. So that's it's hard because with a young group, it's really about learning how to win, or even more so learning not how to lose. And so it seems like in both games, we've made some really crucial mistakes in the last few minutes of the game. In both games, we had leads with I think 3 minutes left in the game. In the Edmonton game, we had a lead the entire game. The only time Edmonton actually led in that game was when they scored a touchdown with 1 minute and 40 seconds left. It was their first lead, and it was kind of a calamity of errors that kind of led up to it. We had them 3rd and 10. We were up 6, had them 3rd and 10 with like 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, and they threw a deep bomb, and we should have knocked it down. Unfortunately, we picked it, and I don't even blame our corner for picking that. It's like one of those things where, like, when the ball is up in the air, unless you're like you have to be so mentally engaged. Like, it's 3rd and 10, I got to knock this down. Like, it goes against all the instincts of a corner. And he picked it on the 2, so instead of having the ball on the 50, we had the ball on the 2. And so we're like, well, that's no good. Then we go 2 and out, we take a safety. Now the 6-point game becomes a 4-point game, right? Which is a big difference because, 6-point game, they got to get a touchdown and make the extra point. 4-point game, now it's just a touchdown and, theoretically they win. So that was kind of our first kind of mistake. And then on the ensuing drive, we kick it off after the safety. And we ended up taking 30 yards in penalties, including kind of a silly roughing the passer penalty. And that put them down on the 6. And then we had a guy forget his assignment, not cover the running back who leaked out of the backfield, and they had a wide open touchdown. So just a calamity of errors across the board as a whole team that kind of led to that loss, which is frustrating, but at the same time also extremely encouraging because I look and go, hey, look, we had opportunities to win. There are clear reasons why we failed to do so. And those clear reasons why we failed to do so are also very fixable. And so now we can't really be using the excuses of we're young and inexperienced. We have now experienced, close, hard-fought games that we fell short on. Now we have to fix those mistakes. We got to come in and we got to start winning football games. And I think we're gonna come out with that attitude this week. We didn't have Xavier last week. We will have him this week. That's a big difference. I will say I kind of touched on it earlier. So I scored a touchdown on Edmonton on their corner from New York. He was talking a lot of shit and then scored a touchdown on him. And he's a very good corner, though, I will say. Again, just because you get scored on as a corner doesn't mean you're bad. I'm just stating that fact. He's very good, but I got one on him. And then I was kind of talking to the OC Steve Stuber on the sidelines when I was on defense and telling him to kind of like, draw up a call to throw it at me and kind of giving him a hard time. And then the entire the entire bench started talking about the podcast. They're like, go do another podcast. Nobody listens to your podcast. Nobody wants to come on your podcast. And I'm just like, that is objectively false. Every single team has come onto our podcast except you. We have lists, and I'm sure you do too, Mark. I've got lists of like 20 guys who have messaged me, can I come on the podcast? And so, like, if you're gonna trash talk Edmonton, at least say something that's true. When you say nobody wants to come on your podcast, but every single team's come on except you, you're just dumb, and actually dumb as fuck. Like, come up with something at least creative and intelligent instead of like trying to diss the podcast, which has been pretty popular from everything that I've heard and seeing all the downloads we get from it. And considering you're the only team that bitched out and didn't want to come on the podcast for whatever reasons, then to talk about the podcast. So here's a really funny thing, Omari. These motherfuckers hate listen to our podcast because they know about it. They know everything we said. I had guys like mentioning things I had said on the podcast. So they're talking shit to me about the podcast, about how no one wants to come on, but they literally are listening to it. They're listening to it right now. Edmonton, I know you're listening to this right now. You're probably all huddled together in your locker room right now, listening to this podcast. You hate listening to it. You love the podcast. And so like I just found it so funny. Like, you guys are exposing yourselves as kind of idiots, talking about trying to mock me for the podcast when you guys sit there and you listen to it to try to like pretend that you don't listen to it. It's really weird. So I found that kind of funny. So shout out Edmonton guys who are listening. Now, that being said, I'm kind of grouping the whole team, and this was a small group. There are great Mitchell Phillips he tells me all the time he listens to the podcast. He's given me some feedback on the podcast. I know Zach listens to the podcast and is good with it. And I know Gilmore down there wants to come on to the podcast. So I'm not speaking about the whole team. It was just kind of a Steve Stuber and a couple of guys that were kind of around him that were kind of being like that. So I just found that kind of funny. And like, because obviously this means that our podcast is reaching people when both you and I are getting talked to about it at the game. So I did think that was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's always entertaining. I guess it's like, I guess, like, you know, we talked about putting the podcast together, and you know, we like leading up to it, you know, but like I guess in the back of our heads we never really clocked like, oh wow, we're gonna be getting extra attention. So I mean, if that pulls double coverage for myself or extra attention for you, hey, it's I'll take it as a compliment.
Put it up on the bulletin board, right? Like, yeah. It's just, you know, it's just funny too, right? Because again, like I said, like, I have a lot of love and respect for a lot of guys on Edmonton. Like I said, I really respect Zach Brooks' game, and I really respect and admire Mitchell Phillips and what he's trying to do, coming back to play quarterback after so many years off. And Brennan Sitko on the offensive line, I really, really like. And it's just, you know, during games you like to trash talk, and that's fine. I like it. You should trash talk back. But Edmonton, just come up with something better. Like, just take your time right now and just like brainstorm together while you're listening to this podcast together. Brainstorm like good things to trash talk me about, like make fun of my hair or my leg. I don't know, make fun of something that like makes sense, right? But don't try to like disparage the podcast and say that nobody listens and nobody comes on, when that's just objectively false. You're the only people that didn't come on. And the other thing, and I think we're allowed to say this now because Sinjin's been pretty open about it, but Sinjin came on our podcast a little while ago, and he was actually coaching with Edmonton. And then Edmonton so badly wanted to hate on this podcast that they kicked Sinjin off the team. He was literally coaching their DBs. Their board booted him off the team because he came onto this podcast. And he didn't even talk about Edmonton. They were just so mad that how dare he come on the podcast that they kicked him off the team. This guy was volunteering his time coaching the DBs. They kicked him off the team for coming on the podcast. It's insanity. Like, that's how much they hate it. But then at the same time, these fuckers listen to the podcast. Yogi, listen to this shit. Yogi, Matthew Wilson, who is like one of their team presidents, in the handshake lineup. I'm shaking hands after the game. It's totally like, you know, 99% of people, you can talk shit about them all game long, but when you shake their hands after the end of the game, it's like respectful and nice, right? But I get to this guy. The guy in front of Yogi is this big, massive DN from the Huskies, number 9, super stud. And I was like, dude, you're a stud, man. You're unbelievable. And then I go, next is Yogi. Yogi hears me say this to this guy. And then Yogi goes, yeah, we recruited him. And I was like, okay, like, what? Okay. He's like, well, you said on the podcast, we don't recruit anyone. And I'm just like, fuck. So you listen to the podcast and you're so spiteful about it that you wait for a handshake lineup to tell me that, oh, look at us, we recruited. So first of all, when I say you don't recruit anyone, just because you recruited one guy doesn't mean you have a million fucking people in that town, in that city. And you recruited one guy and then you're going to be like brag about it in the handshake lineup because you're mad that I said you can't recruit. You've won nothing. That team, the way they celebrated after beating us was like they just won the championship. You barely beat a Red Deer team that has nobody from the States, nobody from down east. We've got guys from Hicktown, Alberta on the Central Alberta Buccaneers, a bunch of just blue collar dudes coming to play football, and you squeaked out a win, and then we're celebrating like you just won the championship after the game. Not everybody. Like the smart guys like Zach Brooks were not taking a part of that bullshit. Like Zach Brooks was not celebrating that victory because Zach Brooks understood that victory was slightly embarrassing for the elite. And good football players realize that. But I saw guys like jumping up and down and twisting around. I'm like, if this is the best moment of your season, like that's pretty sad. And I know Zach and the leaders of that team will shut that shit down, because there was nothing for Edmonton to really be celebrating in that game. If they're truly honest about themselves, squeaking out a win against a little Red Deer team that should have no business competing with Edmonton is not something to be excited about. So just a couple little things that kind of happened. The St. John thing pisses me off because St. John's a really good guy and was helping him out. The hate listening is awesome. I love that Edmonton is hate listening to the podcast. I'm sure I'll hear more about it tomorrow. So we'll see. This is the first time in my career I've gone back to back with anybody. So, what do you think of the game, Omari? Did you watch it on film at all?
I'm actually going to be doing all my film study tonight. I've had a busy week just with work and deals and a few things here and there. But I was when I was editing together the Central Alberta live stream, I got to watch a bit of it, and I think the running joke was always, oh, it's the mystery man, because I know you get Edmonton Elite kept everything very private, and so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing now more about what they bring and everything. I know I'm familiar with their one corner who they signed as local. He's all Canadian from the CJFL. So
yeah, Chevy. He is a good player. Good player and a physical, and talks a lot of trash, but in like a fun way. Like I quite enjoyed it actually. Good, very, very good player. Yeah, no, they're good. Edmonton are good. They got some things they have to work on, but that defense is legit. Their DBs across the board are legit. Like that was a very good secondary, very good linebackers, very good D line. Like very good. They're very good.
They mic'd up. I thought it was pretty cool. They mic'd up number 49, I believe.
Well, Daniel Wolshin. Yeah, that was really fucking cool. Honestly, I want to know how to do that. That was pretty cool.
What's funny too with that? I actually, because I use like similar mics for like my business with the videos I put out. I actually mic'd up one of our players at practice, and the videos are actually being like edited right now. They're edited right now, and I saw that, and I was like, they beat us to it to put it out. But I did mic one of our linebackers, Bryce, and of course they mic'd him up. Everyone else wanted to be mic'd up, and like it is an idea I have. I do want to get different mics just because those are my work ones, which I don't want to have.
Are those just like little Amazon mics kind of thing? You just like I was like, how do you even do that without like it like ripping off in a game? Like especially him, he plays like he plays a physical game.
Yeah, so I guess just to help, I think this will help feed the league and give guys ideas. So what it is, you want to get like a lapel mic, and there's going to be a receiver and a receiver and transmitter. The receiver is going to go to the camera. The transmitter you want to put then in the pads, because then the microphone, because it's omni-based, depending on the mic you get, it will pick up all the sounds around you. So it picks up the pads, it picks up the noise, the hands, and all that, the running and everything. And then, so as a camera, you just have that set up, and then you just literally follow that one person. So it's pretty easy to do. Like I know seeing like YouTubers doing everything, you thought it's pretty hard, but it's pretty easy to do. I know, like I've seen the NFL Films version, they get like 8 mics. Like then again, they have the gear and resources to like really get the proper gear. Yeah. But for us now, like to do this, like you get a Amazon mic, don't get it too expensive because if it breaks, it breaks because, you know, you take a hit, falls on it, whatever way. But typically you can tuck it under the shoulder pads in the back at like somewhere where it's going to be somewhat protected. And then the wires, you just feed through and hook it in and tape it in and you're good to go.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy to do. And like, I know for Wolfpack, we'll have some video of it coming out for our practice that we did. But for games, I know there's some things I'm working on to where like trying to do that for games, but that kind of content will help drive, you know, attention and all that and everything. So I want to give props to the media guy there and all that.
Yeah, no, that was a really cool thing. And I mean, who doesn't love a good, you know, hot mic like that, right? The mic'd up stuff's pretty cool, especially if you got the right personality for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a good job. He's a good dude. I actually like Daniel quite a bit. And then, you know what, it'd be, again, there's just so many things out there that you could do to really drive content to the league. And like, even people that don't know the league, like that's just a cool thing to watch, right? Because most people don't understand what's being said on a football. Like my wife was watching, like, man, and she's like, man, there's a lot of like niceness that happens in a football game. I said, honestly, yeah, like a lot of the times I'm talking to guys and it's like 90% just like chatting, you know, nice stuff is said. There's a little bit of shit talk, but there's not as much as I think people realize. Like a lot of guys just kind of have good conversations.
Yeah. And especially going back to back, you guys are like, you know, some conversations will be like, oh, how are the kids? How's work? You know, did you send that email? Did you, how to go with that deal you were closing? Oh, we closed it. Oh, that's awesome. All right, beer's on you. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of fun going back to back. But then again, I feel like I got a question in now for you when it comes to the back to back because, you know, you play someone back to back. What are some things now that you want to change? Because I feel like now there's more of a chess game that happens here because teams are thinking, oh, are you going to make the changes? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Different looks, the same thing. Like, you know,
well, without giving too much away, because we know that the elite are listening to this podcast, even though they pretend that they hate it. You know, I've been, you know, since that game was over, I haven't slept a whole lot this week. There, you know, we went into that game. They had film on us. We didn't have film on them. Now it's kind of an equal playing field. You know, we both have film on each other. You'll see some changes from us for sure. I think just like we'll see some changes from them. But I think this is an interesting situation, right? Because I've never had this before in I think at all in my football life. Played the same team 2 weeks in a row. Two times in the same season for sure, but definitely not 2 weeks in a row. So I'm interested to see how this game goes. I'm interested to see what they do. I honestly think like they had a pretty good game plan against us, and they did a good job. So for them, I know Mitch, the quarterback Mitchell Phillips, wants to get used to, you know, throwing in live game situations. I know that was something he mentioned to me after the game, just obviously not playing quarterback for 4 years, coming back to, you know, we sent a lot of pressure at him. Our DC likes to send a lot of pressure. So we sent a lot of pressure at him, and it's difficult, right? It's difficult if you're not repping that same stuff in practice. And of course, in practice, it's hard to rep that kind of pressure because you're not allowed to hit the QB. So I bet they spent a lot of time though this week kind of working on that. They had some success with some of their shorter routes, crossing patterns, and running back leaks and stuff like that. So hopefully we can kind of get that under wraps this week. But no, I'm really excited. Did you see? Okay, so this is kind of a funny story. I saw that Cold Lake just signed a new player today.
Yeah,
and I was reading it, and I just saw you know 6'5", 380, and I'm like, shit, they signed another punter. I thought, wow, they're really going at it. No, and this time it was actually an offensive lineman. So an offensive lineman from the Ottawa Red Blacks. So this guy apparently is a stud coming into Cold Lake. I believe this is the last week for Cold Lake and for the Bucks. Any teams that are on their third game, this will be the last week to get players in for eligibility for the playoffs. I believe the rule is in order to be eligible, you have to play 3 out of the 6 games, but I think one of them has to be within the first 3. So Bucks and Jets are on their third game this week. So both teams, this will be the final week as far as getting any new players in. You guys, I believe, will have another week because you had that bye week. So
yeah.
But yeah, what quickly, let's talk about the Irish and the Cowboys. We haven't touched on that. So I was at my game. Our game didn't kick off till 7:30, and I was watching the
The clips
the
from Curtis.
the clips and seeing the scores of this game, and for the almost the whole game Grand Prairie was winning, and I was like, wow, what is happening here? And then we had to go with our game. I didn't see the end of it, and I saw that the Irish came and won, but by the sounds of it and watching the film, like I think the Cowboys, I think you and I have been pretty, and even St. John, we were like, I think the Cowboys are going to be pretty good. We've kind of called that. We kind of expected them to be pretty decent. I think
Oh yeah.
I think Airdrie's been worse than I think they thought that they were going to be. And I'm not 100% sure why that might be. I think the passing game has been not there. I think that they just can't, they're struggling to sustain drives offensively. Grand Prairie and Red Deer's defense, who Airdrie played, were both very good against them. Grand Prairie's defense is tenacious, and they were last year too. I knew the Grand Prairie defense was going to be really good this year because they were really good last year. But they've got some studs. They got this kid that's keeping up with me, and right now I'm still leading the league in receiving and touchdowns. He's right there next to me in Grand Prairie. I think his name's Tyson. But he had another good game. He had another touchdown. So they're not completing a lot of passes, but he's, putting up some numbers, and Trace is getting in the ball. And I think once they kind of get more flow with their offense, they can be good. But this league is close. That Grand Prairie could have easily won that game, and I was kind of hoping they would, just because it would really throw a wrench in the standings. And I love that the league is so close this year. And if you look at, all right, well, the Bucks, we lost by 3 to Edmonton in a game we probably should have won. We lost by 5 to Airdrie in a game we could have won. Grand Prairie lost to Airdrie in a game that they were winning. You guys, you lost by a lot, but if you look at why you lost, pick sixes, punt returns, some big unfortunate runs, and your first game traveling, this is a fun year.
It is, and this is something too. Now heading to this game, I've been, just trying to looking to lead the team, and I'm letting them know, hey, these Cowboys guys, they're going to be hungry for a win. You're telling me that these guys are now and I was telling the guys too, just these guys have to now be on the road twice on a 8-hour drive to Airdrie and back, to Calgary and back. They're going to be hungry. There's no way this team coming down is just going to come here just to play ball. And they're going to go for a win, especially if they've made 18 hours around there on the road. They're going to they're hunting for a win. So,
how's that schedule, eh? Go to Airdrie one week, and the next week you got to go to Calgary.
Man, that's
should have just stayed the week.
I was thinking that too. It's man, I wish we had more resources to where we can then help guys with hey, stay in Calgary, save the 6,000 on busing, and put that towards hey, you take time off work and this and that.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah, that's crazy. And you know what? They traveled pretty well too to Airdrie, so I expect they'll travel well to you guys.
Oh yeah, and with both of us both looking to get that win, it's going to be a hard fought game. I think I know St. John. I'm looking at this. St. John posted his predictions, and he's put it at 35-14. And I mean, I like how I guess he's what is he? I don't know if he put us up or not against that, but I'm putting us at I'm taking Wolfpack here. Us getting get on track with the receiving and everything. 30-25. 30-25, because I know these guys move the ball. We got some new guys joining and everything. So I'm putting it against us. I know everyone. If I ever line up against someone that says, "Oh, predictions, this and that," I'm like, "Hey, I'm never betting against the team I'm playing on."
No, you just can't do it. I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. Yeah, yeah. What kind of message does that send to the rest of your team? And plus, I don't know. You're like myself. I don't really care what past results. I believe that my team can win every game we play. I truly believe that. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be the player I am today. I wouldn't continue to play the game. It's just not how I think. I actually, and obviously I have a soft spot for the Wolfpack that played there last year. I think, and I have a soft spot for Grand Prairie. I really like Grand Prairie, but I do kind of want to see a Wolfpack win, just because of, playing with you guys last year. I think that Grand Prairie will probably travel well, but maybe not with their full roster. They don't have the same running back power or defensive scoring ability, I think, as Cold Lake, even though the Grand Prairie defense is very good. Daryl, last year the Wolfpack won 30-0 in that game. Have the Grand Prairie gotten 30 points better or Wolfpack gotten 30 points worse? I'm not sure. So I'm going to take Wolfpack like 21-14. I'm going to take I think the Bucks. I think we're going to come out and make a statement this week and play really well and mistake free. And if we do that, I think we can get out the victory. So I think the Bucks are going to beat the Elite 24-17. And Irish Jets. This is an interesting one, right? So both 2-0 teams. Irish
and they go back to back.
They go back to back. Yes. And this now, that's what I was going to say. So technically this is a battle for first place / home field advantage for the playoffs. But let's say the Jets win this game. That doesn't mean the Irish are done because they do get them back to back. So the Irish could then win. So then it becomes like a point differential thing, which is another reason why it was kind of nice. And even though we lost to Edmonton last week, we only lost by 3. So if we can get a win by 4, then we actually win that season series and then the standings tiebreak, which is huge as well. Because if top 2 teams get buys and then third gets that home field and doesn't have to go to the number 1 seed. So that third place spot for us as the Bucks, obviously being 0-2, is what we're really going for. But it's the first place battle with the Irish and the Jets. And look, this game's in Cold Lakes. I believe Cold Lake is going to find a way to win this game. But it wouldn't shock me if the Irish squeaked something out here because I don't think the Jets offense is quite where it needs to be or wants to be. Hey, I saw that Cole didn't play against you guys. I'm not sure if he's hurt or if he just wasn't there.
He wasn't dressed. He wasn't dressed. That was one thing I noticed. There's a few players I had that weren't dressed. Like I think Teague. I think at the beginning of the game, I don't think he was dressed. And I remember looking over and then I think he had his pads on for his lowers, and I looked over again. Then he had his uppers on, but no helmet. And I think he was just more like coaching me in a coach's role there. And then end of the game, he got in. So I don't know what, I guess what their style was managing there, but I did notice things flopping in and out. So I'm not sure if they were hiding for film. Guys were injured. Guys didn't want to dress this, that, whatever it is. But I know he wasn't there because I was looking for him on the offense because he was someone out when I was at safety. I was like, okay, where is Cole? This dude's gonna run that over route and catch it right in front of me. So I need to make sure I'm ready for that. But that's one thing I didn't notice there. So ideally he's back here and he goes from there. Yeah,
that'll be a big difference because for them, if Cole doesn't play, I think the Irish can win that game. If he does, he's a difference maker on offense, and he opens up a lot of things for the other team. The Irish weren't great against the run. I feel like they have the bodies to be good against the run, but they haven't been super great against it. The Bucks kind of ran roughshod on them. Grand Prairie, I didn't watch the full game in the run. I was kind of skimming through it, seeing a lot of the passing game stuff. That's what I like to watch for. But I'm going to take the Jets. I think I'm going to take the Jets. I don't think they're going to score a lot against that. I'm going to take the Jets 21, Irish 10. I don't think the Irish have a field goal kicker, so I don't know why I always pick these touchdown and field goal, but I just do anyway. So, but yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Irish win. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys win. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if the Elite won again against the Bucks. Obviously, this is just a close year. It's close teams, and that's the way that it should be. That's what gets people excited. I mean, I'm excited to go to that game tomorrow knowing that it's, regardless of the situation, it's going to be a close game. And I think you're probably feeling the same.
I am feeling the same there. And, it's going to be a close game. I think the nice thing, too, is Curtis, that it's going to be a live stream as well, which is awesome. Curtis has a great setup there, which, I think we'll plug in a bit, but it's going to be a close game. And I always feel like anytime I make this prediction, there's always someone's going to be upset or, you sliding us and everything. It's just a matter where I'm just off the best knowledge I have, and, guys coming to play and guys coming to show out, and you never know. That's the fun thing about football. But if I had to put it to, I think it's going to be 24-21 Jets, but I'm adding this stipulation to overtime with a field goal from the Jets kicker to win it, because that man's got a leg. He had one kick on a kickoff. I looked up, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, Dean.
High. And then
shout out Ideen. He's a good dude. He played for the Bucks.
I think I'm gonna give, just because I'm thinking like offense, defense, and they can exchange. But I just know I think the Jets have that on lock when it comes to the kicker side. So I'm gonna say specials is gonna be that difference maker for them. But again, football's football. Guys are gonna win. Guys are gonna compete. You got to get yours. You'll get yours, and I think that's why we all love this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So that's the wrap up for the week. We didn't get stats on time to really go over that. I'm going to work on trying to make sure I get all the stats from the teams when we do these weekly podcasts. I have a couple things on the pipeline. Oh, I should mention, we forgot to mention in the beginning, thank you to the podcast sponsors. There's been a few guys that have stepped up. Travis Savitsky has stepped up. Danny Warwick and his company, Warwick Grain Carriers, is a main sponsor of our podcast. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Travis. And my head coach on the Bucks, Jeff Rambo, is also going to help out a little bit with the podcast to keep it going. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, people. If you want to donate to the podcast, Jeff and Travis don't even have a company. They just generously, donated to help me out to cover the cost of the podcast. If you want to do that, please let me know. If you want to have your business on the podcast, we can work out sponsorship like we have with Danny and Warwick Grain Carriers. Lots of options out there to help us continue to make the podcast, to make more episodes of the podcast, to get better equipment for the podcast. I've reached out to Jordan Heather, quarterback of the North Bay Bulldogs, former quarterback of the Calgary Gators here in the AFL. He's kicking ass down in the NFC, 400 yards a game right now or something like that. We're going to have him on the podcast hopefully soon. When we're going to talk some NFC stuff. I'm going to have Gilmore Dalton onto the podcast at some point. He's got some great stories. I'd like to do a sponsorship podcast where we get Travis and Danny onto the podcast, former AFL players. And obviously, if we have Travis Savitsky on the podcast, we know that's going to be a good time. So we'll get them on soon. So lots of exciting stuff coming up. We're going to continue these weekly previews. Each week, weekly previews / looking back on the week, but also we're going to have some bonus episodes thrown in there on the long weekends and stuff to fill some time and hopefully keep producing good content for you guys. So, Omar, you got anything else before we sign off and get ready for game day tomorrow?
I hope everyone's here hydrating. I feel like I think I made a post in our group chat for Wolfpack, like, hey, get your hydration on. That's definitely what saved me when I was playing both ways. But, for those who are listening to this,
coconut water, baby. Coconut water.
Big facts. Go to Walmart. You can get a 1 liter for $2.50. Big time.
Yeah. It's so good, man. There's nothing like when you're hot and tired, like just swigging some delicious coconut water.
Oh, it hits. And the thing is, too, you got to go to the ethnic aisle. You can't be going to where the drinks are, because then they have it for $4.50.
Get the real shit from the ethnic aisle for sure.
Big time, because then no sugar added and all that good stuff. You got to go there. Yeah. That's my low key. Walmart, $2.50 a liter. Save yourself the Gatorade. You're good to go.
100%. Way better for you than Gatorade. Gatorade is shit. Don't do it. Coconut water is basically Gatorade on steroids. Trust us. I'm not lying about this. It's my go-to drink. That and some San Pellegrinos, of course.
Oh yeah. All right. Okay. Well, I can send us off here. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hey, looking forward to another week of matchups here. Another week of film. Another week of competition. The one thing we all love with football is, we love making plays, but you're gonna get got at some points. But that's the point we just get up and keep fighting again. And I think it's all in that pursuit of just constantly being better and pursuit of happiness on that end. So appreciate everyone tuning in. You can find us on Spotify, LinkedIn. What am I thinking? I'm thinking of business right now.
You've been working too hard, man.
Yeah. Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, anywhere we get your podcast. This will also be uploaded to YouTube as well. Hey, let's have a good week 3. And stay safe, play hard. Let's shake hands, jersey swaps. That was fun to do with Gabe, and let's carry it on. So looking forward to seeing everyone here next episode.
Yeah, the jersey swap was cool. I'd like to personally thank all the Edmonton players still listening for continuing to give us those downloads and listening in. I actually love you guys. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I hope it's a good game. I hope everyone stays safe. Safe travels, Grand Prairie, second week in a row. Have a safe game as well, so you travel back safely. I wish everyone the best tomorrow. I hope they're good games across the board. Thanks for listening. Thanks to our sponsors again, Travis Fitzke, Danny Warwick, Green Carriers, Jeff Rambo. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks, Amari. Good luck tomorrow.
You too as well. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, brother.